I'm going to call to order the work session. It's February 17th, 2021. And we will start with, if you could bring over, Michelle, Ms. Scanlon from City Planning. Good morning. Long time no see. How are you?
Hey, how are you all?
Great.
Great.
This is an informal work session. We're here to discuss the zoning at the Thompson, formerly RCA property that the county owns.
Yes, thank you for having me. We are, do you want me to just launch in? It's been so long since I've done one of these, and I've never done a virtual one. Okay. We are in the process, as you know, of updating the zoning map to be in line with the comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2018 for the incorporated Bloomington. One of the things that we're looking at doing that we proposed in a version of the map that went out in October of 2020 is to rezone some of the old PUDs that haven't had movement for a long time or that are entirely built out. So you'll recall, I'm sure, not sure about Ms. Gibbons, but the other two know that the zoning codes, your zoning code and our zoning code, does include provisions for PUDs to be rezoned after a certain amount of time after they've been built. That isn't always something that takes top priority, you know, with all the million other things the planning department has to do. So we are kind of trying to catch that up to current and look at the old PUDs so that we can do that practice moving forward in a better way. Thompson is one of those that we were looking at when we initially reached out. We were considering putting forward zoning districts for Thompson. And so what we are wondering from this group is there an idea of a plan for the commissioner-owned portion of the Thompson PUD? I know there have been plans in the past for various uses, and we were kind of just wanting to coordinate to be able to align if we were going to propose that it be rezoned to a base district, that it wouldn't be one, you know, that was wildly out of place for what you were hoping to do there. The map that we have put out this last week, we've left it as PUD for now. One, because we haven't been able to kind of coordinate with everyone. It also, there is still ongoing development there. You know, Catalent is obviously doing some work there and expanding currently. One of the things we looked at for PUDs that we were going to recommend rezoning on was that they, as I said, had kind of either been fallow or basically 95% built out. And this kind of doesn't really necessarily fall into that because of the work that's been done in some of the outerlying parts of the PUD. So anyway, we do currently have it as PUD still, but thought it would still be valuable to come to you to, you know, let you know we are thinking about that, if that's something that you're interested in as well, or if you have ideas about what you are planning to put there, then that might be something we could kind of keep on the shelf for potential rezones moving forward. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that you've checked in with us on this. And we as a whole don't think the PUD is going to happen. So I think that should go away. But the question is, my question is, what was the underlying zoning before the PUD was established? I could not find that in the city record.
Gosh, I have it somewhere. What was the underlying, hold on, what was the underlying zoning before the PUD was established at Thompson? Let me see if I can find that. Just a second. Take a minute to open here. Okay. Looks like it was initially rezoned to MGPCD. The way they used to do the districts was, the PUDs was identifying base districts to go along with the PUDs. But I don't know what the underlying is, but I can find that out
Yeah,
for you.
just curious about that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this was first done in 91. So, you know, what was in this area at that time is going to be slightly different, you know, than what is there now.
Yeah, yeah. That was my concern when I couldn't find it. I thought, well, it might not even matter anymore what the other.
Right, but
so-
yes, I can supply you with that. We
Okay.
are actually in the process of having our files scanned. So we're in a kind of a weird limbo of it takes a little while to find things longer than.
That's okay. That's okay. This is a bit of a curveball question. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Actually, there's apparently something wrong with my audio. I could barely hear what Ms. Scanlon was saying.
Oh no. Are the others of you also having the same thing?
Yeah, I turned my speakers up.
Yeah, I had to also, and I couldn't hear what you said you thought the previous zoning was.
Okay, I don't know. Hold on, let's see.
Okay,
I can fix this. I said I'm not sure what the previous zoning was, but I can find out.
Yeah. And at this point, it's such
It
an
might be
old,
moot because it was so long ago.
yeah, that it wouldn't be a zone that they use at all currently. Right, because it's been so many years.
Right.
if the PUD were removed, then what kind of zoning would that fall under?
Hold on a sec. Am I louder now? No, sorry. I almost never go to these Zoom meetings where I'm not the host, so I have a hard time with the doing this.
I can hear you fine.
Thank you. Okay, so if we did rezone it, right, that's the question. We would be looking at what kind of districts. So obviously we have our comprehensive plan to look at. We also have the illustrative plan that we did for the neighboring PUD to the west that has a portion of the Thompson shown in that. When we worked on this, when we weren't sure if we were going to switch it over, I would say quite a bit of it was residential across the middle where your portion is, and then obviously you know, the park is to the south, and then the areas north of where Hillside would go through we would suspect would remain industrial where Catalent is located, and then some pieces on the east and would be commercial. So it was kind of a rough, we did do a rough rezone of it, but then just decided, well, you know, we hadn't been able to touch base with you, and because they are still moving forward, maybe it was to let that play out a little more.
Yeah. So in our conversations, we would be interested in removing the PUD.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really, it's just, we just don't see that as a possibility. But what we would like to do is to just plan on working with the city to determine the best use for that property in hopefully the near future.
Okay.
And sorry to be so nebulous about it.
No,
but
that's fine.
So I think no matter what zone you put it under, it's going to probably end up having to be rezoned anyway or become a new PUD. So
that's part of the thing, or for everyone, if there's anyone watching who that it could always be rezoned. So even if we chose something that then you ended up having a partner or a need that it didn't match, then we would just go back through the process and rezone it again if we were to change it. So at this point, I think it probably will stay, but then we will look probably in the near future again to keep talking about it and see if there's something that makes sense.
Okay. So when you say stay, you mean to remove the PUD and just put?
No, that right now in the map that went out last week, it's still PUD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it is there any way to go ahead and remove that and then just put whatever you think?
Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that. So we will probably, so the process will be, you know this, but for other people, it will go to Plan Commission at the beginning of March, along with a series of text amendments. So we will discuss with them. I think this will come up because Sudbury and Thompson are the two largest PDs that we didn't recommend changes, to see if they do want to switch them over. And we will let them know that you all are amenable to having it switch. You don't necessarily want it to stay PUD.
Right. Okay, great. If you think we should attend that meeting, if you could send the link, we'll
Yep.
we'll make sure to attend.
Okay.
We probably should. But we appreciate the forewarning of what's coming up, and just with everything that's going on, it's difficult to pin down at this moment what we think
Sure.
it's going to be. We've had some initial discussions about some options, but it's just too early. But we definitely know we don't want the PUD.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to make sure there wasn't 90% plan that now we were going to be adding 3 months because you'd have to get it rezoned again or something. So
Exactly.
if it's still kind of in the beginning stages, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Very good. All
Okay.
right. Do you need anything else from us at this time?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay,
joining us.
good to see
It's
you.
always good to see you.
You too. Bye.
All right. Take care. All right. The next item is the proposed resolution. Let me get the wording right. There we go. The Environmental Commission discussion regarding a climate resolution. And I think we have, let's see. Nolan Hendon here, if you could bring him over. Anyone else that you see on the attendees list, Lee, that should be brought over, or Nolan can let us know?
Yeah, Teddy Phillipson. And, oh, my list book. Well, okay.
I don't see a Teddy Phillipson on the list.
She's having troubles connecting.
Gotcha.
I think a whole lot of them, I was getting a lot of emails during the meeting, and there's no one. Did the connection get worked out?
They're raising their hands. That's perfect. Thank you for doing that. So those attendees who are connected with the Environmental Commission, raise your hand. We'll bring you over. That's a better way to do it.
Oh,
Thank you so
it's
much.
Teddy Mauer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Warren.
I don't know.
Mr. Warren. Yep. Good, good, good. Thank you, Ms. Dayton. You're awesome. That was quick.
Thanks. No problem.
Great. Hello, everyone.
Hey, thanks for having us. I'm Nolan Hendon. For those who don't know me, I'm the president of the Monroe County Environmental Commission. And a few months ago now, I believe we sent a letter to the Board of Commissioners recommending that they endorse this resolution prepared by the Youth for Environmental Sustainability. Yes. And the commissioners, I believe, had some questions for us. And Teddy, who was a previous Environmental Commission member, also was sort of the mentor with the S group to help them prepare this. So I'm going to sort of let Teddy and some other folks from the S group on the call take most of your questions. So if you want to start off with some questions, or if Teddy, you want to start off, either way.
And actually, we have Reed Roush here. Aaron had to go to class. So, and we have a large group of Youth for Environmental Sustainability along with supporters, but Reed's going to represent everybody today. So you can direct your questions towards him, and the rest of us are here to help.
Great, thanks. Do you want to tell us about it?
Sure. Hello, my name is Jude Roush. I'm a sophomore at IU, and this resolution is basically just it's just basically I wouldn't say a plan, but it's best practices for how to address climate-related issues in Monroe County, and we're just very excited to be with you here today and looking forward to your input.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see if my colleagues have comments or questions. Commissioner Jones?
Well, I've already looked at this a number of different times and made a lot of comments and asked a lot of questions. So I'll let the two of you go first.
All right, Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I had several things when I read through it, and by the way, thank you for putting this together. One of the whereases says that the average Bloomington resident is burning over 20 metric tons of CO2 per year. I thought CO2 was the result of burning, not something that you burned.
Oh,
It's
yeah, it is. I think what is meant by that is we're just trying to say that they produce 20 metric tons of CO2 per year, but we can definitely change that if needed.
yeah, that was a shock to me if that's in fact what it is. Then also in that same page, you talk about untreated sewage going into the White River. And I wondered how that worsens crop productivity. I'm not challenging it. I just would like to understand it.
Let me look at the, Unfortunately, I was not here for the writing of these whereas statements, but based on my knowledge, these often would lead to poor distribution of nutrients and also just poor water quality in general, which lead to less productive crops and also adverse consequences to human health when people consume these products or interact with them for a prolonged period of time.
Okay, and then finally, you have a big goal for reducing net carbon emissions here.
That's section 1?
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
section 1?
Yeah.
Githens? Okay.
Sorry.
So we can follow along.
Yeah, it's a big goal. How are you proposing we reach that?
So we kept that intentionally vague because we wanted the commission to have discretion on how they want to go about that. And note that it's by 2050, so there's plenty of time for technology to continue to grow and develop, but hopefully we're looking for improved technology such as solar panels, alternative forms of energy, it's some better heating and energy, better heating production. It's hard to determine now just because, it's so far from the future and technology only getting better. But we really wanted to leave that to your discretion and future commissioners' discretion in order to meet that goal.
It seemed like the first section 1 to reduce net carbon by 28% in the next 4 years seems like I'm not sure technology will help us quite get there. I like the goal. I'm not arguing against that.
No, I understand. I understand that number can look a little intimidating at first glance, but a lot of carbon emission can just be done by improved heating, improved insulation, better use of energy, energy efficient processes for the buildings. We have a multitude of ways to address this. Again, we like to leave it up to you guys, but there's, I'm sorry, it's just such a nebulous question. It's a lot to think about.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Did you have anything else?
May I interject here just for a second while we're on that one point? The city also looked at a resolution earlier that was passed that Yes brought to them. This would put the county and the city together. The wording is for the most part the same. And they did as well bring this up, but they were able to find a lot of opportunity for more efficiency in city buildings alone. And once they really looked at it, Dave Rollo and some other people looked at it, they felt a little bit more comfortable about reaching those goals. And those are goals we have to reach as a country, actually. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Right, this is for me. I really appreciate the thought and the principles outlined throughout this resolution. I'm always wary of signing something that I don't take seriously, right? It's so easy to say, well, this is important and we believe XYZ, but if we're really not going to commit to it, I don't want to sign it, right? So that's why we're paying really careful attention to a number of these sections. I have some so what I hope to do is to be able to send you back my specific comments. I think I too have concerns about section 1, just given the limitations we have due to the number of buildings and especially the number of historic structures that we cannot solar panel, for example. But I do think there are ways to make this happen with some really creative work, and I think we can do a lot of this. In section 2, I think the one of the questions I have is at the very beginning of section 2, it says to seek LEED certification. Which level?
So we haven't determined that. I think that most buildings go for the gold level currently. We were under the impression that the county had actually determined a level that they were aiming to meet for all buildings, but you haven't.
No, what I was indicating is just that this is something that we always think about with our buildings. We aren't necessarily going to be able to do it.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, so typically what we believe to be as an attainable goal for LEED buildings is the gold level, but we can also clarify whatever you guys think is most accessible.
Can I ask a quick question about solar?
Sure.
Is solar really prohibited on historic county government buildings on those properties anywhere?
I don't know that, and that's a great question. I think for buildings like the courthouse, it's just impossible because of the shape of the building, or it's very limited, and so the cost to install is so prohibitive because of what very little surface you actually have to work with. But it just makes it much more difficult. Whereas with the historic building at North Showers, with that sawtooth roof, it actually was better for solar than we could have ever have dreamed. So sometimes that historic building works with you, and sometimes it works against you. But I do think there are some other opportunities. And so, for example, right now we're looking at solar installation at the highway garage area, and utilizing that for the offices there, but also to change over some of our fleet because you know, it's great to say, well, we have an electric fleet, but if you're pulling power from Duke, then you're really not making much of a difference. And so as we are able to utilize both our parking garage solar panels, and then hopefully in the future, the near future, we have some FAA issues because it's located near the airport. In the very near future, we're hoping to get those installed, and hopefully that will mean that we can then have charging stations there as well, which would be great. And then we can really change over our fleet. So I don't think it's, I wouldn't say it's not doable. I think it is doable. I just think it's going to take some creativity. And I think, you know, by signing on to this, we're saying we're going to put the work in to try to figure out how to make this happen with, of course, the help of the great environmental commission that we have.
Can I jump in too and make a quick comment? On the lead issue, I just want to point out that it is on new city buildings. I know there is an issue about on existing city buildings if it's feasible cost-wise, but I think with new city buildings, it should be a pretty achievable goal.
Yeah. Do they have
And,
gold? Is that what you're saying?
Well, and as far as the level of lead, I think even part of what we advised, yes, as a commission, is that we didn't want, and as Reed mentioned earlier, we didn't want this to be too prescriptive.
Okay.
It wanted to be more open and let the commissioners in the county decide how they would achieve it.
Okay.
To answer your question, Julie, the green building ordinance for the city, all new construction has to be LEED silver. So like the switch
Silver.
is silver. And then for City Hall, we did the LEED operations and maintenance certification, which is for existing buildings. So that could be an option, just depending on the particular building that is in question.
That's a great point. Excellent. Thank you. I have, there are some things that that we don't have a lot of control over. So for example, in section 6, I'm going to make the suggestion that the library and public Bloomington Transportation Corporation references that are really not applicable. I mean, it's an example, but the methods of snow and ice removal, that's something that, you know, I appreciate that, and that's section 5, that the word is explore, because there are a lot of things that go into those decisions that really are related. We would take our highway department's recommendation on that, but we will definitely, you know, explore is a good word. So that's good. I had a question on, well, in section 3, expand about the bus routes and accessibility. That's really, you know, not in our hands. Section 4, I had a question about the first sentence in section 4. Monroe County Board of Commissioners will commit to replacing trees of equal diameter breast height for every tree that is removed. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so basically whenever a tree is removed from county property, we'd like there to be a replacement of the tree with a tree that has the same, sorry, I'm just restating the sentence. Basically what we want is that we want the trees to be replaced with something that provides the same ecosystem services, and we want them to be able to sequester the same carbon.
Okay. So I guess my question on that is, we typically don't replace adult trees with adult trees, right? We typically, and the ratio varies. So, so we do have mitigation, for example, with INDOT projects, right? Which are a lot of our local road and street projects. and it's Commissioner Jones or Commissioner Githens. I'm trying to remember if it was 7-1 or 6-1, 5-1. Thank you, 5-1. I couldn't remember the number right now. So 5-1 replacement. And we don't actually have our hands on that part of the project. So for example, if we have to remove 5 trees for a road project, NDOT will plant 25 trees at somewhere in the county. You know, we don't actually do it. They do it. And but in this last project where we're going to have to remove trees on East Sample Road to because that whole road is getting redone. I asked Lisa Ridge to look at providing trees to the residents, or the option to residents to actually also plant additional trees on their properties, because I imagine that would be a nice thing to do if we can do it, but they would not be full grown trees. That's just something that is so expensive for us. But yes, we do look at the best species. We work really well with Ms. Thompson at the Extension Services. She has been such a huge help to us. So when we had to replace trees on the courthouse lawn, for example, we ended up finding, she recommended yellowwood trees. And so that's what we have growing. And I also know that new trees actually do a great job at carbon sequestration, as older trees are less effective at it. So but we're on board because we're already doing this. So that's not, I just had a question about, because it appeared to imply that we should be planting full grown trees, which is so much more expensive. And because it's so cost prohibitive, that would mean we would be able to do less. And that worried me.
Yeah, the intention there was, new trees, saplings, but we can definitely clarify that on that resolution.
Yeah, and if you replace them with the same size tree, all you're doing is moving a tree from one to another. What you want to do is increase the tree stock. So
yeah,
you would want to be putting in young ones.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, just a few little, recommendations. So I have my scribbles, and I will put that in a more legible format and send it off. I'll send it to my colleagues to see what they want to add, and then we'll get that to you. And this is a great idea. So appreciate the hard work that went into it, because the whereases provide that research background that's so important. So we really do appreciate the hard work of everybody to keep moving on this. And with COVID, a lot of things have been moved to the back burner, unfortunately for us. And these are things that we are really excited about, but we just don't have time to deal with them all the time. So I appreciate your patience more than anything through this process. It's, when you have a pandemic and then you have a snow emergency and then this and then that, it can get to be a bit much. But we are really grateful for that. Let's see if my colleagues have anything else they want to add at this time.
I just want to thank the Environmental Commission for the work that they put into this, and Teddy especially in shepherding it through and making sure that we didn't lose track of it with everything that's going on right now. So I feel very good about this. There are times when it needs to be goals or attempts, or we can't necessarily get everything exactly right to be, even in the amounts of time suggested. But we sure can try.
Yeah. Commissioner Githens? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, it's important to keep this in front of us.
Yeah, for sure. This is you know, in a way, it's always front burner, even when other things try to push it to the back. So when we make decisions on projects for bonds and larger capital investments, this is something that we always do talk about. You know, if we, you know, X roof has to be replaced. Well, should we now be looking at a white roof, or should we, how can we make it solar panel ready? Is it possible? Is it structurally, you know, is an option for structure? So it is something that we do regularly talk about, but we take it so seriously because we're not willing just to sign on to whatever. And I do want to thank you all too for that work that you did to bring the youth environmental group along. I think that's just shows that mentorship is so important. It's what makes Monroe County special. Does anyone from the Environmental Commission have anything they want to add? Mr. Warren, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to the transit comment. So I think it's important with long-term, you know, long-term goals like this to not lose sight of the fact that we could have Bloomington Transit go out into the county at some point in the future, and also the Board of Commissioners controls rural transit too. So there are some things that are possible in the future, and then also some things that are possible with transit in the present with current authorities and assets.
Thank you. Anyone else have other comments or anything else you want to add for us?
Yeah, I just want to add on to it that, you know, like you said, these really provide best practices for our future decisions. I mean, it doesn't really have to address some of the things you mentioned that are currently happening, but we're hoping that in the future, you'll take these considerations and you'll take these into consideration.
Great, thank you. Great point.
I just want to add a historical reference to, yes, started in all of our high schools in Monroe County, and they have come a long way. I have been so grateful to be able to watch them develop their critical thinking skills, their understanding of government, and of course, all the ideas and content surrounding climate change. One of the big things that the students that had gone to the city first with their first resolution, one of the reasons they decided to come to the county is because there were limitations in what the city could do. And they found every time they were talking to people, they were like, it's the county that has that jurisdiction, or even bicycle paths to get that over the city line into the county. And a lot of our students at that time and still are from Monroe County. They are voting citizens. And they happen to go to IU, which was wonderful for me because we were able to carry through with our opportunities. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that the reason they're coming and they did all this work for the county is because they really do want to see more work with the city on these larger issues. We need all of us to come together. Reed has just done a wonderful job because he took over the county resolution. He came in and he just did a wonderful job. We had that baseline, but he just added so much on top of that. And I have to admit, it was interesting because it's a whole different way of government, county to city and state and everything. But these members of YES, they just have such a wonderful future ahead because they were really willing to do the work, with the understanding that this is all about intent, our future, being able to back off on things that they wanted to see happen right now, that maybe we just didn't have all the information to make that happen. And that's why you see the words explore and those kinds of things. It was hard for them, but they understand that at the end of the day, it's about our intent for the future. And that's what the resolution is all about, right? So that you have guidance, and when something comes up later, you can say, but remember that resolution, and our intent, our goal is this. And so we want to do the right thing and get there. So I just, yeah, it's been wonderful to work with them. And it's been wonderful to work at the county level and talk to some of the people that work for the county out there in the different departments. Another thing that we did not add, but we tried to figure out how to do that, but our environmental commission kind of wanted to move on. They thought that what we had was important, is how do we get a baseline of carbon dioxide emissions. And Lauren has been looking at that for a while, and just we would love to see a way that we can monitor carbon dioxide emissions in Monroe County. And of course, boundaries are people made, and so that adds an extra layer in there. But certainly, we didn't add it to this, but we would like to see that in the future. Maddie and Jarrett, who are the co-founders of Yes, that was always their intention, but I think what we have is a really good thing right now. So we really appreciate your time.
Great, thank you.
Can I, earlier during our regular meeting, we actually passed a resolution because we feel like the state is trying to take away some of the home rule that we have. It impacts solar and wind. It impacts property division, which feeds into some of what you're talking about with the sewage runoff and with swales and all kinds of stuff. And so it'd be good if you also would help contact state legislatures to oppose those two bills, because it feeds, like I said, directly into some of these things that
And actually, Yes's next step after the county resolution, they are talking, maybe Reed wants to add about this, but going to the state level and adding other chapters around Indiana through university systems, but anybody can join. It's just that university systems has a great way of communication. And we have the scientists too as well. So Reed, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, I was just going to say exactly what you said, and that we're going to be heavily invested in the legislation passed by our state and just the future of our state in general.
Great. Does anyone have anything else to add?
Just thank you all for putting us on the agenda. We appreciate it.
Thank you all, and thank you again for your patience and persistence and for keeping this really vital part of county government in front of everybody in the community. I have one more quick question about the CO2 emission numbers. I wonder how that can work with, and just kind of throwing something out here, because the city is part of the county includes the city, and that's part of that probably that learning process that everybody's gone through. Are you looking for something that would be countywide, and then the city has their numbers, and then you can use those numbers either as a amalgamated number for the whole county, or we could separate them out if we had to? What's the thought there?
We were really just looking for something countywide, but also, as we've talked about, the city and county are so interconnected that any data would be incredibly useful to sustainability.
All right.
I can provide a more technical response to that. So our current inventory really only looks at the administrative boundaries of Bloomington. And so I'd be happy to work with anyone in the county to try to find related data, whether that ends up being emissions related or just looking at the drivers of what's causing emission, vehicle miles traveled, looking at electricity and natural gas use. So creating that foundation that makes it easier to start measuring and inventorying these types of measures.
Okay, great.
Well, I have a question related to that, Lauren. You might be able to answer this from the work you've done. Is there a way to figure out, to estimate, say, how much carbon we're exporting from the fact that, thousands of people work in Bloomington but don't live in the city, or they don't even live in the county? There are thousands of people who commute into work from outside Monroe County. That's a lot of CO2. They're living in jurisdictions that are much less progressive environmentally than we are. And so, for instance, if our zoning laws are making it harder for people to live here, their carbon usages and their carbon emissions aren't showing up in an inventory, but they're putting carbon into the atmosphere wherever they live. And so is there some way to measure that?
Sort of. So, I mean, when you look at emissions within a given area, people's driving behavior, whether they're originating in a different county or living in Bloomington, is all going to be attributed to that area. So if I'm moving from Owen County into Bloomington, my miles that I'm traveling in Bloomington will count in our emissions total. When Interesting thing is that the state does keep track based on, you know, your tax return, where your place of residence is versus working, and you can look at the discrepancy over time if we have more inbound commuters and look at how that might be affecting our overall sustainability if people have to travel longer distances. But be happy to talk to you about that further if you'd like.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. All right, thanks again for all of your help. We appreciate you, and we'll be sending you some notes soon.
Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Okay. All right. So Ms. Purdy, do we have anything else that we need to address?
I thought that Penny Cottle had submitted something late yesterday, and I had said it would go in the work session.
Let me look.
There's Miss Penny now, because it's a renewal. Hey, Penny.
Yes, hi. Actually, there were a couple things that I think I submitted over the weekend. And I can go over them, and then whatever you need to do with them, we can do. One is our harm reduction grant. And we got the award letter in, I think, November. We were able, it may have even been October. We were able to get the money appropriated because it is a calendar year grant, but the actual grant agreement just came in. And so we would request that that be approved, that renewal be approved. So that was the one item.
Okay, so let's deal with that one first. So it's the same amount?
It's $63,750 this year.
Okay, great. And since it's a grant renewal, we can go ahead and approve it at a work session. And that would help expedite things for Ms. Cottle, I imagine.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and approve the continuation of the harm reduction grant, $63,750. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Other comments, questions? Okay, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0.
Great, thank you. Do we need to ratify that, Jeff, at the next regular meeting?
No, this is a notice public meeting, so this would suffice.
Okay, excellent, thank you. All right, great.
Thank you. The next thing is really just clarification. When we came to you last month for the vaccine clinic grant, and that kind of was between different CFDA numbers. At any rate, I had confusion on the fund number, and when we brought it to you, it was listed as 8107. It is actually, the fund number is 8105. So that did already exist. I just wanted to provide that for public clarification.
Okay, so noted, thank you.
And then the other thing that came in late was an amendment to our Title X funding, an additional $30,000 from Indiana Family Health Council to try to get us through March. So it's not unusual to get those at the end of the grant cycle. It's even possible we could get one, in March if we see that we're not quite going to make it. They're usually very good about shuffling money around. Sometimes it comes almost after the fact, but this hopefully will get us through March with the Futures Clinic.
Okay, great. And that's something we need to go ahead and approve?
Yes, and it is an amendment to an existing grant.
Okay. $30,000 amendment to the existing.
Yes. Title 10 grant,
Mhm.
and it is Fund 8126.
And that's from the Family Health Council.
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the amendment to the existing Title 10 grant from Family Health Council, adding $30,000 in Fund 8126.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks for juggling all these important things all at once.
I appreciate being able to just submit them when they come in and then reminded, oh yeah, we're doing work session again. So, but I appreciate being able to bring them to you in quick order. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Ms. Purdy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I put it in the notes, but just in case Penny didn't catch it, if you could just make sure that you send Anita kind of the basic information for the work session notes, just so that she can have that.
Okay, will do.
If she doesn't already.
I think she does, but I will make sure. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Great, thank you. Let's see, is there anyone else or anything else, Ms. Purdy?
Look at me, I'm trying to get off of here as quickly as I can. Sorry. I'm not aware of anybody else. So yeah, I'm not aware of anyone else.
I don't see anyone else either. Looking through the list, so I think we're good unless yep. All right. Okay, looks like we're good. Thanks everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn this work session meeting. Thanks everyone.